Okay, so once we start the recording, it's telepathic. That means you all are telepathic beings. Doesn't matter whether you didn't know it growing up or you're not confident with it or anything like that. You are, whether you're aware of it or not. A good example I use about telepathy, and I'm not talking about intuition because that's what people on Earth call it now, is, a young girl and is across the street and she's in summer clothing and there's a young man on the other side of the street and he looks at her and thinks she's very pretty. So he turns around and looks right at him. Now, how did she know? They call it intuition on Earth, but it's not. It's telepathic. It's just unconscious telepathy. So when we start this recording, you all start to operate as you're meant to operate. And you have a man and a woman assigned to each of you from the Galactic Alliance. Some of them are master teachers themselves, like any guru you might find on Earth, but more advanced than people on Earth. Far more, because they never grew up on this planet. They aren't suffering from the negative influences of the negative things that are stored in the water vapor, in the air, and in the oceans of planet Earth. It all stays within the atmosphere. So this is the reason that we serve to guide you outside of Earth's atmosphere first. So we get outside of that influence, and then the male and female, very advanced beings, as a service, they keep your primary implant, any negative influence, subconsciously turned off for the journey. So you can get real benefit from going on the journey. And then when you come back, you still have your problems to deal with and all that, fear, the present and future, but you have more control over it, more energy to deal with it. And this is the point. It wouldn't do anybody any good, no matter what anybody's saying on this planet. You can't remove a primary implant on Earth by people living on Earth. That is impossible. We don't have the technology or the freedom of consciousness as beings to do that kind of thing. It requires beings that were never born here, that do not have subconscious minds, and cannot be manipulated or influenced by people on Earth, no matter what they think. So it requires beings that are free, in a sense, to rub off on us, to help us remember from their example what freedom is, what freedom from fear is like. What's it like to live without fear of any kind? Most people in this galaxy live this way, not people on Earth, unfortunately. Not yet. But we're meant to live like that. We're meant to be free of fear. So I continue this work against all odds. Certainly when I came out with it some years ago, I had to come out with it alone out of nowhere and start presenting this to the public on Earth as part of disclosure. It was like being on the crest of a wave coming through our solar system and introducing an energy in the omnipresent power itself that's designed to help people recover what they were made to forget in a way that is organized and undertaken by vast hosts of beings that are not from Earth. None of you are from Earth originally anyway. You're all extraterrestrial in origin, every one of you. And if you want to take it beyond extraterrestrial beings on other planets, you're not even extraterrestrial. You're from the source itself, which is beyond the lower worlds of time and space, beyond spaceships, beyond extraterrestrial natures. So we're all that old, We're all very, very ancient beings. Doesn't matter how old your body is that you're running right now. Doesn't mean a hoot. So this 100th monkey thing I referred to is simply this. There are 2 islands off of Japan, and they have monkeys on those islands. They're not connected. They're too far apart. People would feed them crates of fruit. And they would always, dump the fruit out on the sand, and then the monkeys would eat around the sand. And then one day a piece of fruit rolled down into the water and got cleaned off by the ocean. And the monkey picked it up and he could eat the whole fruit. And he started to wash the fruit in water. Even in streams inland and all that, in fresh water, they'd wash it and eat it. And then what happened was the monkeys on another island had no connection with them, started to wash their fruit and eat it. That is the story of the 100th monkey. It means when a percentage of conscious people on a planet reaches a certain point, it can transform a world. It's about 150 million, just basically, out of 8 billion. And we're not there yet, believe it or not. We're not quite anywhere near there. Probably 20 million maybe. So this has to accelerate in order to bring about this 100th monkey principle that works in the universe. The reason it works is because constructive, uplifting energy is master over all negative things in the lower dimensions of time and space. On Earth, people have been manipulated in a number of ways to not remember any of what they once knew with confident certainty. So these journeys are to help you remember how to see and visualize what you once knew how to do very easily and effortlessly in other lives out in the galaxies. Because your other lives out there were far more evolved than the one you're running on Earth today. Far more. And this is really a shocker for most people when they realize that they were once far more evolved than they are now. Meaning that you had a far more evolved human type of genetic body, one that had more than 2 strands of DNA, 4 in general, and that the telomeres on the end of each end of the DNA did not shrink when the cells divide. This is what immortalization is all about. It isn't some magical principle from some master guru that waves a magic wand and makes you immortal. Out in space among many worlds, this is just common sense. It's a higher understanding of how to work with the genomes on the DNA or switches. And if you have the right sound frequency and technology, you can turn off or on those switches. Change a body part that's got cancer, completely heal it. Or keep the telomere from shrinking when cells divide, and then your body doesn't age. It doesn't do anybody any good to have such bodies on Earth the way Earth is because of other subconscious influences. If mastery were given to you on a golden platter, unfortunately, subconsciously, you would abuse that ability, and the ability to run higher faculties would get distorted, and you'd end up in the same trap here. It wouldn't do you any good. So the journeys are designed to help you remember how to see. And here's the funny part. Everybody knows how to daydream, right? Everybody on Earth knows how to daydream. Every human being alive, good person, bad person, they all imagine something before they go do it. We imagine going to the store, we go to the store. The body follows where you direct it to go. You, the Atma, the spherical being, the soul, you. Think about it. You have a certain amount of mastery you have to have just to run the complex nature of one human body. It's run through the pineal gland in the center of the brain. You used to know this. Long time ago. Which means when you want to go to the store, you imagine the store you're going to, and you get in your bike, you get in your motorcycle, you get in your car, and you go there. But it's not the brain and the body and the lifetime you grew up with this life that imagines any of that, because the human brain can't imagine anything. There's no mechanism in the human brain cells, like a motion picture camera, that can project an image on another bunch of brain cells so you can see stuff. There is no science on Earth that can prove where imagination comes from in the brain. They only suspect it comes from a certain area. It's really channeled into your physical consciousness through the pineal gland. Human bodies do not have batteries to run themselves. If you weren't running that body as a spherical being, sending a certain energy to it through the pineal gland, your body would drop over dead on the spot. Bodies don't run themselves. Now, it seems like one person has dropped out. Now I think they're back. Okay. And there's bonus? I don't know. Okay, yeah, okay, good. Come back at another way. So we want to get outside of Earth's atmosphere. That's the main thing. Now understand this. This will not be necessary. At some point, when enough people are awakened enough to help transform this world. You also need to close your eyes if you want to go on this journey. It won't do any good to be looking at the world around you, because that you do all the time. It doesn't help you at all. When you let energy from the atmosphere of Earth in through your eyes, you're getting an influence from what's in Earth's atmosphere. When you close your eyes, you're basically shutting off any external input into the body. And so this is what you do when you put the body to sleep at night. Advanced races call this the trance state. You put the body in a kind of a hypnotic state where it rests and recovers, breathes and has a heart rate and blood flow, but nobody is home. In other words, you're running it from a distance. So when people imagine going to the store, it's no different than using the imagination to see things beyond Earth, out in space, other planets, other dimensions, the higher realities you came from. Because it is you, the spherical being, that sees all this stuff, not the brain. It seems like the brain's doing it because when you open your eyes and see something or imagine something, it seems like it's coming from your head, but it's not. So you have to realize imagination is pretty impressive. It's pretty important because once it's awake, you can visualize being on Zetranami 1 in the middle of the galaxy or close to it, or Oceania, or the Atma plane where Satnam is, or the void, or beyond it into the source itself. Because the Atma has built-in faculties and capabilities to circumnavigate the entire multidimensional creation. We've always had this. It was built in before we came down here and started playing with bodies and then got lost in them over billions of years. Most of the higher faculties that are required to be utilized and turned on to travel all the way back to source, which was our original agreement or command, is that we were supposed to return to that source a long time ago, and people haven't been doing it. Certainly people on Earth aren't. Most of the Galactic Alliance members weren't until recently either. As paradisical and advanced as those worlds are, they weren't returning either. So the lower worlds were not changing. And they haven't changed in several 100 billion years, which means what we call God is stuck within itself. A good percentage of it is in the lower worlds unconscious. They've forgotten everything that matters. They're running around running bodies one life after another and wondering what the hell went wrong. When you people have manifested the courage to find this work, which you did that, I didn't do that. It was innately in you as a being, despite being implanted, no matter what was done to you. You had the ability to cross paths with this word. I wish the rest of humanity were as courageous as you. They have it in them. That just, like in the West and the States, they seem to be more mindlessly entertained and misdirected more easily than some other cultures. So it takes them a little longer to catch up. As wealthy and as advanced as the U.S. is, the people in it aren't as consistent in pursuing their own well-being as you people have been. So you need to, just not pat yourself on the shoulder. It's not about ego. It's about being able to step forward despite odds being completely against you to do so on this planet. This is what's important. Because this is telepathic, this is awakening in you as I'm sharing with you verbally. My body's in the trance state called sleep right now, just like yours. It doesn't mean you won't be able to hear noises outside through your ears. That's a form of protection. But the body goes into this trance state because of the man and woman from another world that's helping you, standing behind you. They look human, about 36, flawlessly handsome, flawlessly beautiful. And then you find that you're hovering near the ceiling looking down on your body. And this is just daydreaming it. You know how to do that. And you realize there's a spherical being, and it does in fact look like the front cover of what's on the Emerald Doorway book. I don't know if there's any place else on this planet anywhere that shows us what we look like, because that was buried a long time ago by tyrant kings and corrupt priestcraft and influences that were negative from the stars and a whole lot of things. So when we start to remember what it is we are, that people on earth call soul, without really knowing what it is, what it looks like, or where it is, it starts to recover itself. It begins to understand intuitively at first that it used to know so much more than it knows now. And then it begins to remember that what is this thing we call soul that is not a body and has never been a body? None of you have ever been a physical body in billions, hundreds of billions of years. But you've run many millions. So no big deal there. Everybody's in the same boat on this planet. For now. Things are changing here in unusual ways. In the United States, just what we call disclosure through the Pentagon has begun for the first time in 70 years. They're beginning to come forward and admit that, yeah, we know extraterrestrials are there, and we have craft, we have bodies. They're starting to let things out a little at a time and give people the ability to adjust to this change. Now think about this. I don't know what any of you did during COVID, but a lot of people on Earth rioted and started hoarding toilet paper and paper towels. And that was just from a scare from COVID, not extraterrestrials. So you see, when governments classify something, they're afraid that it might cause problems or disrupt governments. They do it because there's some basis in their understanding of how people react to things on Earth. And they've caused a lot of it themselves by suppressing the truth for so long, much longer than it needed to be suppressed. The biggest problem with disclosure is when you reverse engineer alien technology to make weapons, they don't want to share that with other countries. We shouldn't be doing that. We should be working together in a government on Earth that is benevolent and kind and works with each other. Because none of us on this planet, no country on this world, will be allowed to explore the stars the way we are now. Doesn't matter what they think or believe, space is already occupied by far more advanced races. And they're not going to tolerate us going out there and having little baby tantrums of power and greed and throwing rocket ships around and nuclear weapons, fighting over somebody else's property in space. We don't own it, and we never will. The only chance that we have to be a spacefaring culture is to be invited to join a vast world organization that is out in space. And we cannot be the way we are and be invited into that. The solar system we live in is quarantined. It means it's protected from ourselves, from destroying ourselves. It's also being protected to keep a few tyrant races that did spend a little time here messing with people, reptilians and greys and things like that. They were taken off this planet 25 years ago. And the UFO and extraterrestrial communities don't really understand this yet. There haven't been any new gray abductions by little grays in 25 years. They're still talking about stuff that happened back then. Which means people on Earth are still suffering from a kind of amnesia that was done to them without their consent or free will. And this has to be reversed. When you imagine someone you love and respect, you're grateful they are in your life, a person, place, or thing. This just needs to be something that makes you smile inside. It could be your art. It could be something you painted. It could be music. It could be anything. A baby's smile, a kitty's purr. Whatever it is, it'll make your heart just kind of feel warm inside. When I do the hue, it changes me. It changes the inside of my being. It starts to glow. So before we start these journeys, I have to do a little preparatory work. Connecting with Turelian and Satnam and Opelum and Ramu and Etta and Din and light seeing friends that I trust with my life, that I respect. I don't worship any of them. I don't put them on a pedestal. I don't worship the source behind all life or prime creator, because it wouldn't work with me as it is now if I did that. Because it of itself, the source, never required us to worship or pray to anything. That was all created on earth by people, let's just say, that aren't exactly as honest as they seem to be. And so the source itself only required that we go and explore and play in bodies and gather information, and at some point return to the source and download this information that's unique to each one of us into the source. When we do that, we start to become part of the solution. Earth is just an example, an extreme example of a planet of unconscious human beings. But there are problems in the lower worlds of time and space that are keeping beings from fulfilling this purpose for why they exist. That purpose is simple. We exist as spherical energy beings made of an energy that is not nuclear or atomic. There's no DNA, there's no atoms, no molecules, no protons, no electrons. It is the type of one omnipresent living power that is behind and supporting positive and negative things. Worlds turning on axes, galaxies spinning on their axis. There are beings called silent mentors who actually maintain the structure of the universe. And they are very little known to people, even in the universes and the galaxies. The more advanced races know of them, but have not experienced them. When we go to the U Expansion Ray Academy, where we're going, then we can experience them. Now, this is a long-distance journey, correct, Pari? This means we get to go play in levels that help to awaken the higher faculties you have forgotten before you were ever captured and planted, long before that. So we want to get into and above the void, and I mean above it, in order to plug ourselves into energy that has no negative nature whatsoever, never did, never will. The spherical energy we are is made of energy that has no negative nature. So in reality, each one of us has no negative nature. All of that has been implanted in the field of energy that surrounds the outside of the Atma. Usually in physical universe energies of the hue, all the way down, say, outside of Earth or on other planets. And it's in that field of energy where subconscious problems are placed, misdirecting things. When we make decisions based on fear, they're always incorrect. They cannot be anything else. Nothing constructive or positive or right can come out of decisions made from fear. And yet we have a planet being run by people politically and religiously that are making decisions every day based on a subconscious fear. And so the world stays like it is. There is no being up there in the higher realities at the source behind all life that is there to wave a magic wand and give and dump on people on earth an enlightenment that they're too childish and unwilling to do anything about acquiring for themselves. You can't bring people like that into the higher realities, the higher heavens, who are irresponsible little brats, who just think everything should be given to them without their doing anything. This is not the way reality works. We are meant to be conscious, constructive, co-creative, imaginative, giving people with the source behind all life. There's only one thing, two things really, that we have to do as beings. One, be free of or master fear in all its forms, so that we no longer put our attention on it out of a bad habit and light it up with energy and have it misdirect our lives, because that's all it can do. We have to do that and give up fear. And we have to awaken within us what our true purpose for existing is. That is to be conscious, trustworthy co-workers with the source behind all life. We don't pray to it. We go and experience it. We respect it. It's innately in our being. We're part of it. Of course we respect it. And it respects us. especially when we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So when we plug into the pure you out in space in a few moments, we're plugging into a you that's brought down through Satnam from above the void. So it's a higher form of the hue than normally exists in space, which is the hue as well, supporting and surrounding planets and galaxies and stars and all that stuff. But it's a higher form of it. It's a form of the hue that comes from Source itself. And we do as well. So when we go into these experiences, it begins to rub off on us as it passes through us. Its nature is to pass through us for our benefit, but it doesn't stop there. It moves through us when we're conscious enough to allow it to, and moves onward for the benefit of others. When you see yourself up by the ceiling where you live, or above your car, if you're in a car, whatever, just hovering there, you're going to see two beings hovering to your right and to your left. They're spherical, beautiful, just like the front cover of the Emerald Doorway book. And that's what you look like. They're showing you a male and female form, about 36, standing there, well-dressed, as if it was a physical form, but it's not. It's pure energy. It's projection from the white core of the Atma. And you are doing the same thing right now, showing them a perfect 36-year-old. If you're not that old, you are in this image. Young adult with a flawless, handsome body if you're a man, a flawless, beautiful body if you're a female. And this is how we reveal ourselves to each other. We always have. Since before we journeyed into the lower worlds of time and space. Satnam serves as a prototype of a human type form, first one that came in existence, you could say. So it's not really who he is. It's the spherical being hovering above that form that he shows us is who he really is. This is a being who does not have a body in the etheric or mental or causal or astral or physical worlds. It shows you a physical looking form, but it's not made of molecules and atoms. Neither are you. So you find yourself about at 10,000 meters in the atmosphere. You can focus right down through the roof of where you are and see yourself. And those two beings are hovering beside you near where your body is. But you're also looking at that from 10,000 meters in the atmosphere. You're in both places at the same moment because the spherical being, the Atma, is multidimensional capabilities. It can run bodies on numbers of levels at one time. And every one of you are doing exactly that right now. I'll give you an example because we don't usually have time to travel and explore the vast depth of the astral plane or the causal or mental or etheric worlds. These lower heavens, you might say, fraught with their own negative problems that exist below the void. This is the heavens most people pray to or worship to, and it's a mix of positive and negative, good and bad. It doesn't really get anybody free. When we go above the void, we stop, we leave all that behind. We begin to mix it up with our true nature. The beings that work with us teach by direct example. That means they channel through them telepathically the way they have freedom and awareness. And it moves through us and rubs off on us, so to speak. Triggers things so that we can recover. And this man and woman pointing upward, it's really the Atma hovering above them that's pointing upward. And you find yourself in outer space. You're out in space just like any of you have seen of what Earth looks like from the shuttle or from a satellite or the Hubble telescope. You know, it has its polar ice caps and its blue oceans and its nice land masses and its barren dead moon. You know, meteor crater pockmark that orbits the Earth but does not turn on its axis. That's a big problem because it's not possible in physics for the moon not to turn on its axis from the influence of Earth's gravity, the other planets, the sun. It should be doing something. So it's broken. Something happened in ancient history that made that moon a moon that does not turn on its axis, because if it did and had atmosphere, then it would affect the water in human bodies on Earth differently. So it's one of the things that has to be fixed by silent mentors at some point, so that moon is alive and doing what it should be doing. This is important. When we journey to the third higher parallel dimension out of 144 in the physical universe, and we go to Earth as it is there, we see a green emerald glowing beach. We're able to travel there and understand that there is a world that exists at a higher frequency of the hue. They didn't ever shift polar ice caps like Earth that you know of did. 100,000 years ago was the last one, destroyed all life, and unless you could get off the planet. And that's been a cycle that's been repeating, which was fairly recently permanently stopped by silent mentors because they began to become involved in a way they've never been involved before. They don't have and never have had any purpose in training individuals like us, like a guru or master teacher would. They never had that purpose. They were a completely separate group of beings who maintained the creation. You know, planets orbiting suns, moons orbiting planets, big suns orbiting other suns, galaxies turning on their axis, doorways between dimensions, manning and policing, kind of guarding those things, keeping the energy transforming from the highest realm down through Agam Purusha, down through Satnam, down through the void, down to here, so that it supports all these different levels, these different heavens, you might say. Out here in space, you find yourself standing in a circle in this physical looking form you have, and the Atma hovering above it, which is the real you. And there's Turelian standing in the middle of this circle. Why he does this every time is still a mystery to me. It's done out of kindness, certainly. The kind of things they do is voluntary. They're not forced to do this by a god or by anybody. It's their nature. At least it is now. To be a little more focused on the conditions of people on Earth. Because of the way they are, they would have succeeded in destroying themselves by now quite completely. That was prevented a number of times since the end of World War II, but not by people on Earth. So when people on Earth really discover the nature of their brothers and sisters out among the stars, and we can have advantage of being given their technology, health, diseases gone, all that, then this world will change. But it will not change from 8 billion people trying to change it within Earth's atmosphere. That is quite impossible. They're not awake enough to do that. It has to come from outside, from the greater God. So out here in space, we're plugged into a white golden light that is everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere behind and supporting the Earth and the moon and the sun and the stars and the galaxies. It's just immensely larger, the space that's out in space between all the things that float in it. Galaxies are tiny little things floating in this massive energy field. It is made of the primary source energy, the first sound behind a creation. It comes from the first half of the word hue, hidden in plain sight. When it comes all the way down to a physical body on Earth and you sing it out in your vocal cords or silently inside, when you close your eyes, it opens the doorway through the pineal gland in the center of the brain. This happens for people every night when they put the body to sleep, but they've got no training here. Growing up, none. To be able to bring back awareness of what they're doing every night when they're out of that body. Every one of you leave the body every single night without fail. Unless you stay up all night and you don't put the body to sleep, but otherwise, yeah, you're gone. So if you're not trained from that and you're starting to grow up and you're an adult or an older person, you have to get through all these misconceptions about eternity and what the omnipresent spirit is and how to relate to it, what telepathy is, how we're supposed to function. These things have to be somehow awoken in you as an adult. It's quite a challenge. So the telepathic nature of these journeys begins that process. I do not remove implants. That would be not the best choice for me. Could I do it? Yes, but I won't, because this body that I was forced into when it was 3 was born on this earth as well, in its atmosphere. So I choose to work with beings who volunteer to do this with me, co-creative masters, who do this implant removal stuff out in a safe place, out in space, in the pure hue, where negative things cannot be stored. We can't bring any negative nature out of Earth's atmosphere and store it in the omnipresent space. It doesn't fit. You can't record it there. It won't go. So we come out into it so we can enjoy being free of anything of a negative nature for a time. It's important. We need this. This is not so unusual as it might seem at first when you start on these journeys. We do it all the time. Most people are not aware they're doing it. They don't realize that the way they're behaving towards life and animals on Earth is sadistic. And it creates negative karma in space-time that binds them to this planet, or at least compels them out of fear to seek another body as a supposed safe haven. When this body goes, they generally find another one and get born again here or on some other planet. This is not normal, and it is not natural. It is not the will of the source. It's stuff we've done to ourselves because of one thing or another going back many billions of years that brought us to a point where we became more vulnerable to be captured or trapped or killed or manipulated, when none of this was part of our nature. It still isn't part of our nature. But this is what people believe. And wherever your imagination goes, that's what the hue supports, good or bad, or both at the same time. And since people on Earth are brought up being a little more negative than positive, particularly when it comes to being in fear of the present and future, then they get bound to this. That's karma, that's reincarnation, that's Maya or illusion. The way you end Maya or an illusion isn't by paying back a debt to some god because you blew up a planet 4 billion years ago. Everybody's probably done that. That's not how you pay it back. Karma ends, reincarnation ends, illusion and Maya and misdirection ends when we are awake enough to stop agreeing with it, to stop giving it any energy from our attention, from what we visualize. So it's imperative that we visualize well. Nobody's perfect at this. You can't be perfect at anything in that sense. The Atma, what you are, is already perfect. It cannot become what it already is. And this has nothing to do with ego. It's already perfect. It just has to fully awaken to this fact. And that has nothing to do with the ego of a body, accumulating wealth, or being on an ego trip, or lusting for power. It's nothing to do with any of that. Those are conditions which happen to people because they think in fear that they're a body. So they accumulate and they do these things to protect the body they know they can't keep. What a waste of time. Lifetime after lifetime, focusing on that. We shouldn't have to worry about protecting or running bodies. It should be easy as pie, effortless. We protect them by our consciousness. In these journeys out in space, Terrellian has his 2 thumbs up, and there's a golden white light around them. Now he's 18 feet tall. That's what he always shows us so far. The Sayres race, which was human, prototype pretty much for all of us, was around for billions of years. Humans did not evolve even in our galaxy originally. They certainly didn't evolve in some Garden of Eden, in some prehistoric place on Earth. No. Where we originated was way out among the stars long ago. More advanced races get around the galaxies, you know. They populate planets, they evolve cultures, and we were all part of that. The Sayres like Ambassador Trillian represents. Immortalized their physical bodies more than 1 billion years ago, Earth time. Not by telomere problems, they didn't have those. 12-stranded DNA bodies. Much more intelligent, far more advanced than we are. The Atmas running them, the beings that train the Say Rays are the silent mentors. They have a reciprocal relationship with them. So this is pretty deep stuff. Back then, they simply stored the DNA pattern in one of the teardrops in the Atma they are, and whenever he wants to take it out and show it to us, he draws on the omnipresent power, which he knows how to do, and manifests that form so we can see it. If he was walking on Earth, you could go up and touch it. These beings are far too advanced to appear on Earth to people now. People on Earth are not ready for this. So we go and meet with them in a safe place out in space. The fact that we have any association with Ambassador Trillian is amazing because he's not an ambassador to Earth. He's an ambassador to the Galactic Alliance. He's also an ambassador of Satnam and beings in the upper realities. So this becomes significant. Master Ramu, I take the time to describe all this so that you can have some awareness of who it is we're dealing with. We're about to go on a journey, but we got to prepare the way. I wish it wasn't this way, but it has to be a benefit for all of you. So we take the time to do it. The energy coming from his hands produces an oval, brighter golden sphere of, kind of an oval sphere of light around all of us. And then there's the omnipresent golden white light of the you around us in space, between the Earth and the moon and the sun, the stars, the planets, and the galaxies. It's just, we're plugging into a source energy here, brought down to us. If you look up in space, you're standing around Trillian. There's the beautiful Atma he is hovering above him. There's Etta and Did hovering above him. The Atmas, they are hovering above those silica-based bodies, not carbon-based. And then above them is Satnam standing in space. This is an energy form. Of course he can stand in space. He doesn't have to breathe oxygen. It's not a physical body. He doesn't feel radiation from the sun or hot or cold. And neither do we. We are Atmas. Up above him is an hourglass-shaped golden white luminous vortex, an opening, a doorway upward. And around it is a blue-green luminous liquid light made of elements of the lower planes combined in such a way that it creates a doorway bypassing the lower planes of time and space. And it connects to the beach at Satnam's realm at the upper end of the void. So the energy is coming down through Satnam, through this opening, moving through him like a pale cylinder of light. Moves down through Etta and Din, through Trillian, through me, through Ramu, through Opelum, and then it goes down and out and through all of us. It does go to Earth right through us while we're going on the journey, and it empowers or provides a connection to the pyramids that are at the bottom of Earth's oceans, 2, and 1 inside a hollowed out interior in a mountain in the Himalayas. That's in our parallel dimension of the physical Earth. What they are is a device, that they are not made of physical matter. There are classified people that know they're there. They can't, torpedoes, they can't, weapons don't do anything. They can't do anything with them whatsoever. And they've never appeared to be threatening to anyone. So, with that basis, when you look out in space, you're going to see there are 12 ships, and it's been 12 for a while now, 30 foot in diameter, blue-gray metallic ships, kind of a blue glass-like dome top. You can see images of them on the front cover of the Ceres agenda book. Galactic Alliance vessels as they are today. They're not the more ancient one that's looked like kind of like a round can with 3 semi-spheric pods in the bottom. They're a little more streamlined, but they do the same thing. They're hovering there in a bigger circle around all of us with a thin blue anti-gravitic light around the halls. This is a glow that is created around the hull of these ships when they're powered up. When you see them in the atmosphere, they can appear orange or gold or green, depending upon how it excites the ions. That's where an aurora borealis comes from, the northern lights that people see waving through the skies sometime. The ship turns on in an atmosphere, whether it's day or night, and it sets up a glow that makes it hard for you to see the actual disk shape of the ship. This is just physics of a higher nature. When a ship like that blinks in and blinks out and appears across the sky and blinks back in, it's actually raising its molecular time rate and becoming part of a higher parallel dimension, traveling a short distance and coming back down another opening that it creates. So when they're invisible and traveling around Earth, they cannot be detected by radar. This makes it convenient for being from the stars to help keep us from destroying ourselves. So out in space, when you look up and you look out and see these 12 ships, you can see right through the hull. The metallic structure is kind of a carbon fiber thing. It's more advanced than anything on Earth. And you can see right through the hull because you're an Atma, you are a non-physical being, and you have the ability to see through matter. And you can see 4 couples in each of these ships. 3 standing behind a semicircular control console that has many faceted crystalline luminous controls on it, touch sensitive. There are 2 palm controls of the image of palms of a person's hands, made in a kind of a rose quartz material. And you place your palms in it and the ships are guided telepathically. Obviously, to do that well, you can't have subconscious negative influences impacting. Where you guide a ship, you could drive it right into a mountainside. This has been a big problem for pilots running reverse-engineered anti-gravitic ships, because you can't have negative subconscious influences running such vehicles across the stars. This might be a little enlightening and help all of you understand things a little bit better. Out here, you can understand stuff that you can't inside Earth's atmosphere, because out here, you're an Atma, and those primary and secondary and all that other stuff is turned off for now. You realize that there's a couple of these 4 couples sitting in a kind of a lounge in the back curve of the ship, shoulder to shoulder, man and woman, apparently asleep. And then you realize that when you look around you, standing in this circle around Turellian, they're standing to your right and your left. And there's an Atma hovering above this pure, perfect human form they're showing you, just like you're showing them. And you realize that is them out of their body going on the journey with us. They have to leave their body on the ship. You can't take a physical body or a physical craft where we're going. To my awareness, the most advanced galactic alliance and spacefaring craft from other galaxies cannot take their ships into the astral plane, where all emotion comes from, the next kind of first heaven above what you know of as Earth. Because all emotion in the body and life, you're running there, and it's separate from the one you have here. As an Atma, you're running one there. All your emotion comes from there. So you see, the problems people have to solve are not just on Earth in this one lifetime. It has to do with what your astral life is doing, which lives far longer than an Earth body, has higher capabilities, but there's negativity, there's wars, there's death, there's the killing and eating of animals there as well. It isn't what people think. You got to get above the lower planes of time and space in order to begin to remember how we're supposed to live. Because we're supposed to draw our energy to run bodies directly from the source, the omnipresent hue itself. When beings are more awake, they'll be able to do this, and then food doesn't matter. The more advanced races among the stars eat for pleasure, but they have they have a capability to digest food, but not through digestion. It's dematerialized into the light of the hue and channeled to different parts of their bodies. They're different. There are races among the stars in the Galactic Alliance that do have digestive systems. You don't have to go to the bathroom as much as we do or anything like that, because they don't eat foods like we eat either. They're very different. So from out here, you can begin to remember that you once were very different than you are now. I do not recommend to people out here in space to be a vegetarian. I don't recommend that until it drops away naturally, which it will. You can't force these things. It's just one day you wake up and you just don't do it anymore, because you don't need to. There are people on Earth who are so convinced that if they don't eat animals, they will die, and they'll kill themselves doing it with their thoughts. But this is not true. I know for myself, I have not eaten seafood or animal life on this planet for going on 9 years. So we know that's a lie. There's something wrong with all that. When you go into the hue and travel on these journeys, you let things like that drop away because it's natural for them to drop away. You don't try to force it. That won't work. So now you realize who is keeping subconscious negative influences turned off, and that would be the Galactic Alliance personnel. They're wearing a Galactic Alliance uniform. It's a single form-fitting gray-blue kind of a blue-gray fabric. It fits the entire body. You step inside it. Even the shoes are part of it. And it just forms around your body. It has a Galactic Alliance symbol on the right chest of a silver galaxy with a four-sided, golden-sided pyramid above the central nucleus of the galaxy floating there, and a quartz cap on it, and then 3 blue stars in triangular formation, cobalt blue. So there are things called master teachers. I guess you could relate to them as like a guru maybe, but they're far more advanced, in great numbers amongst the Galactic Alliance personnel, who also pilot spaceships and travel around the universe, and who can get out of their bodies at will effortlessly. They got nothing subconsciously misdirecting this. So they do not live in fear of the present and future. Now these are our fellow beings out there. Their presence is a blessing because what they know rubs off on us sooner or later. When you look up above Sat Nam, you can see this hourglass, golden, luminous, clockwise whirling vortex. It's a doorway. And as Atmas, we're floating in a golden white field of light that is everywhere around us. It has a sound of kind of a deep hum, like rumbling thunder, but no lightning. It's not frightening, it's uplifting. It's the sound the physical universe makes in the parallel dimension where Earth is, that you're familiar with, out in space. It makes this sound. As we go up in the planes, the sounds become higher, which is why when I send out the hue, I send it out in higher tones to connect to each of those realities. And I'm not alone doing it. The masterful beings that work with me, we co-creatively work together voluntarily, because it's our nature. Send out the hue with me. Satnam also is instrumental in creating this doorway. I have to have permission from him to reach his realm beyond the void anyway. I started to partake in these journeys this last year, last few months, 6 months maybe, I don't know. Appearing in the physical universe this way when he hasn't before, except in rare occasions in billions of years. So something is changing. The sound that we hear has this deep sound pervasive all around us, but it also has this light, this golden white presence. When you look at this light, it's brilliant, but it doesn't block out the view of Earth or the moon or the suns or the stars, which seem to float in it. They create electromagnetic fields, what people call zero-point or toroidal energy of the universe, which is a field of energy that comes out the South Pole into the North Pole of us as beings, around planet Earth in the same way, around a galaxy in the same way. And that field of energy that surrounds the outside of the golden area of the outer layer of our Atma, what we are, is also made of the hue. It's a living conscious power. And unfortunately, in the physical universe, it's where subconscious minds can be artificially created and implanted in people. No one volunteers to have a subconscious mind deliberately. No one in their right mind would ever agree to that. So part of this process is to help you remember you are not a subconscious anything. You're a conscious living Atma. You always have been. You always will be. Tyrellian starts to move upward, and we're in a circle around him. And tuning our Galactic Alliance friends and the master teachers like Ramu and Opalam and Eten Din and Lightsea and many others, I've never I've never told you about them or mentioned their names. The few that I have, like Ramu, who's stationed in a city called Agamdes, in the third higher parallel dimension of the physical universe. It's a planet Earth just like Earth, with no polar ice caps. And we'll come back to that on our return. He's moving us up into this vortex, and Satnam is just simply leading the way, disappearing way up inside this funnel of light. And then we're beamed up through it at tremendous speed. And as you look through the walls of this transparent energy whirling around us, you can see levels upon levels of galaxies disappearing below us. Until suddenly we're come out the other end and you can see down through this opening, and we're still hovering around Tyrellian by Earth and the Moon. We're in both places simultaneously because we are beings that are not made of space and time. Gravity does not influence us. The speed of light is no limitation. None of those influences really affect the Atma. And they can't unless you creatively, pervertedly give some other entity or being or technology the right to intrude in your own privacy of your own being, the sanctity of your own true self. So this is what we need to undo, because it happened to all of us. And we're moving up there into this blue, it's like a pale blue light everywhere. It has no form in it, no planets, no moons, no suns, no stars, no beings. It's just this pure energy of the hue. And it's massively large. And you see the vortex below us vanish. And we're moving upward, and Satnam's still further up ahead of us, moving through this void. People call it a void because they don't see any things in it they can relate to. There are beings here that run this place. Very few people ever get the privilege of meeting them. They don't look human. This pale blue light I call pale is because it appears soft, but it's brighter than anything we've seen below. It is not the realm of the Supreme Being. It is a barrier between the upper realities and the lower worlds and dimensions of time and space. As we continue sailing further upward, our focus is Tyrellian. He's still got his two thumbs up. He's just moving us like planets around the sun, I could say, and as a group focused on this journey. And we're heading upward until we begin to see Satnam approach what looks like the appearance of a little white speck. And then it widens out as we approach it, and we realize it's a brilliantly lit, diamond-like white sandy beach. It goes as far to the left and right as you can see, until it way in the distance of this blue void, it tends to curve inward, as if this beach surrounds a huge, monstrously large, floating circular landmass, which it is. And we land on the beach, and you look down, you realize you're wiggling your bare feet. And you're all well dressed, no problem. The Atma is just simply having this form that looks like you wiggle its feet in these diamond sands. Satnam reaches down. Actually, Ramu does, and Opalam as well. Even Eten Din have their feet on this sand. And he picks up a handful of this, and they're little round polished diamond crystals. Diamond-like, but they're higher than diamonds on Earth. And they hold a charge. And that charge is dissolved into your hand. It goes up through the top of your head, smiling. You look up and look at the core of your white being that you are. And you're seeing yourself. And then you're inside the white core looking down on this form, looking at a projection of yourself. And it goes into that white core and it's dispersed, distributed out into the layers, turning on certain teardrops that have not been used in maybe 1 billion years or more. The jungle behind us is all made of growing, living, live things. The bark on these trees, these fruit trees, are transparent. You can see energy moving up and down the trunks. These are massive trees. You can see groups of atmas hovering above whole sections of this forest, running them. And above them is a bunch of birds that come flying out of the branches of these trees. And they stop and hover in front of us on a number of levels, male and female. Long V-shaped split tails. They look kind of like a blue jay, bigger eyes, blue, a little bit bulbous. Twin sets of bird wings, one above the other, like a dragonfly. About 1 foot long. Rainbow colored feathers, just thousands of colors, blended. And they're singing the hue to us as a greeting. With vocal cords, these forms photographic memories. They're telepathic. They are the atmas hovering above the bird bodies, but these bodies are more brilliant than anything on Earth. Far more capable than a physical body on Earth. They're singing on a number of levels the hue until it blends into a round, whole, vibrant tone. And then they disperse and go back in the trees. Satnam now moves up over the top of the trees, the physical-looking body of him. The atma is still hovering above it, just like it is above you. And we go off into the distance, you see a diagonal snow-covered mountain range. From the upper left down to the lower right. And in the background, by the base of this mountain, are these Roman-type pillars made of a blue stone laced with gold. And there are crystalline buildings, transparent glass-like buildings, all along the base of these mountains. And Satnam points to it. Now that there is a throne chair in the middle of a big, huge pyramidal open hallway in the back behind these twin pillars. Golden quartz-like foot-thick steps going all the way up to it. And the throne chair is made of a blue stone. It's got curved edges, no sharp corners, but there's nobody sitting in it. It's a device. The white golden light is coming down into this focal point, into this chair. I've never seen Satnam sit in it. He could. It's his chair, but he doesn't. And beyond that, through a triangular opening, is a much larger fountain. When we look down first, you see a fountain by a garden right below our feet. It has 15 foot in diameter, scalloped white edges, like a seashell. And there's a statue of Satnam standing in it, about 6 feet tall. Bronze skin, like somebody from India, but more golden bronze. Bald head, golden eyes, quite luminous, not yellow. He looks like he's somebody from India. He's got a short white tunic dress, pleated from the waist down to above his bare ankles. Strongly built, ripped, you might say. Bare-chested, 2 gold bracelets on his upper arms. And it's just a statue as a device. There's also a shaft of white golden light coming down into that statue. It's pouring into the bowl through the statue's open palms facing outward at his sides, filling the bowl, and it's dropping in a smooth flowing nature around the outer edge of these scalloped white alabaster stone. It's dropping down behind a circular marble white seat, disappearing in the ground. It's a device. Satnam points to it. This isn't about ego. There's no ego up here. You can't bring a negative nature with you into the void at all. You can't even go into the void bringing any negative nature with you. It does not fit. So we are now standing on the beach of the Atma plane, the first real heaven above the void. This is the realm of Sat Nam, means Sat, true, name, Nam. Nam or name. When we see Sat Nam, we say, I am that. That just means that you recognize, like what he's showing you, that you are this other type of human-like energy that isn't the physical body. And you are an Atma running it. You can see this brilliant, larger Atma than us hovering above Sat Nam. More layers to it. And you look up into the sky and you realize in this cobalt blue atmosphere that surrounds this huge, huge circular landmass, it's just, you can't even see the edges of the other side anywhere. There are billions of acres, let's put it that way, in every environment you can think of in the Atma plane, with every animal, not even from Earth, represented there. All kinds of humanoids, and other non-human beings that have Atmas running higher forms that are benevolent. And if you go and explore this place, when you get permission from Sat Nam or get taken here by a master teacher, you can go and try on what it's like to be an eagle flying in the sky. The Atma that's running it will switch places with you. And you can feel what it's like to be a respecter of all life. Because it's our nature. Just heads up so you know what the possibilities are in playing in the Atma realm. My cat Starlight, after he passed away, went here. I took him there. And he's been playing with a glowing tail like Et and Din with a kitty-type body. They've taught him how to do it. So he has a great deal of freedom here. He does not have to reincarnate as a human or an animal. He is an Atma. He can help me more from where he is than what he could do when he was here. I'd love to have him here, but he's not here anymore. So I have to go visit him. You look up in this cobalt blue atmosphere and you realize that that conduit, that golden white whirling hourglass-like shaped tunnel is still there. And Terrellian simply takes us all. I'm going up with him, standing by his side now, and we move right up through this opening. And the next thing we experience is the vortex. When we look down, you can see this long diagonal mountain range, Sat Nam's realm, the statue, the palatial estates near the base of this mountain range, and all these areas of land with all different kinds of animals and people learning in them. And then it vanishes, and we are now moving into a huge, much brighter cobalt blue atmosphere, and in the distance we can see a huge circular floating landmass. This is between the top of the fifth plane of Sat Nam's realm and the sixth realm. There's obviously a 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, all the way up to Source itself, Prime Creator. And we're approaching this land. As you do, you realize we are now landing our feet on this even brighter diamond-like sand that circles the outer circumference of this huge teaching facility. It is called the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, and it was built in this realm by the assistance of silent mentors who run the mechanics of creation and master teachers, to have a place where we can meet and become, in a sense, prototypes of a new type of being. Qualities of a master teacher, qualities of unlimited ability that silent mentors have, a blend of the two. And this is where this takes place. This is where the experimentation takes place, to create new ways of doing things, to make the lower worlds of time and space actually change for the first time. To do that, a way had to be brought into creation to remove fear and subconscious elements. To do that, we have to replace it with something that actually works. So this is where this was created, and also from a plane much above the source or the ocean of sound and light, Prime Creator. There are two realities further up than that now. The realm of the silent mentors, and further up, the Hue expansionary plane itself. Consider it a new administration facility for changing the way creation is, not destroying it. That's been done before in the lower worlds. And when it was rebuilt and people sent back this in billions of years, it still turned out the same mess. Because we, each one of us, are responsible for the way things are in the lower worlds, because we helped create them collectively together before the lower worlds of time and space were even built. So how old are you really? Certainly not one lifetime of the one you have on Earth. No, that's not who you are. It's important that mastery, what people call mastery, come about in a lifetime while you're running bodies on all these planes. The original idea was to run bodies, gather experience, have tactile sense, sight, taste, smell, and learn about how to work with other beings in these different dimensional realities on many levels. We're meant to know all life in the multidimensional creation because the Atma that you are can do this. One brain and body on Earth cannot. You can. So now we are approaching this sand. And you wiggle your bare feet in it. And you lift it up in a handful of the same, only this is brighter diamond-like sand than in Satnam's realm. And you look out from above, you're suddenly above looking down on this floating landmass. It's the only thing here. Nothing else, no planets, no moons, no stars, no suns, because they aren't needed here. Every one of us and everything here produces its own light and sound. We light the place up collectively. The energy that supports this place behind the cobalt blue atmosphere is a golden white light. It's the hue itself. You can detect it. So something other than this blue cobalt atmosphere is behind it. And as atmas, we're made of the same. The core of our being is made of the same energy that's behind all life, supporting all life. And here you can understand this and comprehend this. So that diamond-like sand disappears in your hand, goes up the top of your head. So you look up smiling, goes into the white core of your being. And basically this is a gift from the Hue Expansionary Academy and the beings who work here to help you remember all the lives you lived, or life you lived, and are still living beyond the void. Because a part of us never left. There's a part of you in the ocean of sound and light in the center of the Prime Creator Source itself that never left. What we are is not bodies of time and space. The sound here is, well, it can't be described in human terms because it's beyond beautiful, more than any orchestra you would hear. And behind that is the sound of this precious, hauntingly beautiful thin note of a flute, humming this incredible melody behind it all. Actually, in truth, creation is held in place by the songs of beings, by sounds they emit. Because the first source energy behind all is a sound. The first sound. First came the sound, then the light to see our way. You suddenly find yourself moving inland past the beach. And now you can, from above, you can see there are 6 snow-covered mountain peaks in a circle near the center of this huge floating continent. And down in between them, in the valley between the 6 mountains, is a blue-green luminous lake surrounding like a white marble-like sand. Looks like sand, but it's probably a solid stone-like thing. There's a blue glass administration tower coming out the outer circumference of this island. Pure blue, transparent, comes up to a oval dome, kind of a meeting area, 2/3 the way up this tower. Then it goes up to a minaret point. There's a shaft of higher white golden light of the view coming down into it. When you look in the base of that glass, you can see in the center of the island, there is a 4-foot high rectangular stone, like a couple of feet wide, curved edges, blue with gold laced through it, and hovering above it is a spherical glass-like blue sphere. And there's a cobalt blue star hovering in the center of it. When we go up into that oval administration area, what is in it is another fountain. There's no statue of Satnam here. This is above his realm. This fountain has a shaft of white golden light coming directly down into it, fills the bowl, pours over the edges of the scalloped edge, and drops down the shaft of this tower. It's distributed through the bottom of the Hue Expansionary Academy, which is made of what look like amethyst crystals, from small ones to a giant central one pointing downward. And these are distribution points for the lower worlds of time and space. When we go up inside this area, we're in a circle with Terrellian, looking at this fountain. It has 3 circular areas, white marble, maybe 2 feet thick, and there are beings standing up on all 3 levels surrounding this fountain to greet us. These are master teachers from all over the multidimensional creation that serve to teach in the Hue Expansionary Academy. So you are being revealed to them. You've been there before. There are different ones here now. There are thousands of teaching facilities out in that countryside. And so you see an Atma hovering above all of them. They're well dressed. Some of them have robes. They look like gurus, or they've got extraterrestrial garb on, or some of them are human or humanoid. Some of them are not human. But there is one thing that's in common. An Atma hovering above each one of them, just like you. The man and woman that came with you is still there beside you. Now we're merging into the white shaft of golden light above this fountain with Terrellian, and we're shot upward. And we look like we're racing up through a spinning vortex. It's a brighter golden light than anything we've seen before. And as we come out of another opening, we come out into it's what's called the plane of the raw power of creation. And there's a being, just massive, spherical, white, luminous being with, I can't even describe the levels of these faculties that it has. It's just gigantic. Now this is Agam Purusha. And this is many planes above the Hue Expansionary Academy. The energy around us is whirling around us and through us. We're not harmed by it. It's red and green and yellow and fiery and moving and disappearing and manifesting. And in the distance, there's this, well, right by us is this big sphere, very stable. When I first met Agam Purusha, this is a being who manages as a single individual the raw power of eternity coming from the next division up, the ocean of sound and light, prime creator source. And he distributes it like a generator down through all these different planes. So in a sense, when we're on these journeys, his presence is with us as the primordial power of eternity itself. And remember, we are in a realm where there is no negative nature, no time and space, no past, no future. From such places, we can look down on the realms of time and space and see any point in the past or the future and visit it To do that, we have to be responsible co-creators with Source, of course. In the distance, you can see what looks like a gigantic silver luminous tree, like a huge pine tree. The branches, these roots go, you can see them going right down into this moving energy as if it was dirt, but it's no ground. And the trunk of this tree is luminous with golden white light racing up and down the trunk, and we are moving right inside it, right through the needles. And as you pass each single needle on a branch, you can see an individual planet represented in each one. And we enter the trunk of this tree as a group of beings, and we're shot upward, right up through the tip of the tree and into another reality. This is something Agam Purusha gave us permission to do. If I were you, I would ask to be friends with this being. He's nothing to be afraid of, although he's a pretty scary dude. He's pretty all power, you know. But there's no harm there. All you need to do is ask to be friends with him. He'll generally, yeah, he likes friends. He doesn't have many in eternity. Not that he needed them. But now he has a few. Respect for such a being is automatic. You don't have to try to drudge it up or figure it out or anything like that. It's as natural as breathing. And now looks like we're coming into a even brighter cobalt blue atmosphere, just more brilliant than anything you've ever seen. And in the center of it is one silver-like galaxy floating there. No moons, no stars, no planets, nothing else in that energy field that surrounds us as far as you can see. This one floating thing. And it appears to have beings like planets and stars revolving around a center. And when you get close to them, we start moving between these massive beings. You realize they aren't stars at all, they're beings. And we're moving right through them until we come into a void in the center. It's a bright cobalt blue light surrounding a white island, circular. And hovering above the center of this island is Source, Prime Creator, or the Ancient One, whatever you wish to call it. And it's just gigantic. It's much larger than an individual Atma. Many more layers of teardrop shapes within it. And it has a white, brilliant core. This is a nexus. This is a presence that we can meet and talk to, because it manifests a voice, but it isn't an individual being. It is a presence that manifests from the connection of all Atmas throughout the entire multidimensional creation, from the highest realm to the lowest place in the lower worlds of time and space. And when we move between these teardrops, because there's so much space between them, we move right into the white core and move inside it. Our little Atma becomes a drop in this other white golden energy. We don't lose our individuality at all. And then you have a gracious welcome home from the Source, big baritone voice, but it's feminine too. It's very hard to describe. And then it gives each one of you a particular message. Something dear of the heart to each of you. Not only a welcome home, but that things are changing for you. And then it asks us to go back, because we can't stay here very long. This far removed from the physical universe of bodies on Earth, or the bodies would stop working. They would perish. We can spend more time in the U Expansionary Academy, and so we suddenly find ourselves hovering above those 6 snow-covered mountain peaks back down there. I don't know how many of you have gone on a journey to have your own co-creation dome established in the U Expansionary Academy, somewhere on the landmass. It's vast, lots of room. For those of you who have, you can go to that dome now because you've been on a journey. For those of you who have not, you're going to find yourselves moving down towards the northwestern quadrant of this huge floating circular MS. The mountains, these 6 mountains, have these horseshoe-shaped tunnels, clear as crystal, cut into the base of these mountains. And out of them comes a white marble stone-like roadway, straight as an arrow. And it goes through all these jungles and countrysides, and little mountains and rivers and forests. It's like the spokes of a bicycle tire, and they end up on the beach all the way around the circumference. So we're going down this roadway in the middle third of this one portion of a pizza pie quadrant. 2/3 of the way out towards the ocean, and we're taking a left turn. And there is a vast energy field here that has a huge clear dome in the center of it, transparent, and you can see a sphere of golden white light hovering up near the center of it. And then you see little individual domes placed like stars in a galaxy, circling around it. And these are individual co-creation domes. Some people have them in other places within the U Expansionary Academy, but this is a collective area. And you find yourself moving down inside one of these domes. There's nothing in it, just this golden white foot thick glowing quartz-like floor, and this golden sphere of light hovering up near the top. And it's transparent. And you find yourself as an Atma moving up inside that golden sphere. And then you have this body form that you can produce that looks perfect and flawless. And you're waving your arms and you're starting to create something. And you're not alone. There are other master teachers here with you, moving their hands and co-creating something around your original expression that can benefit all life, particularly all the way back on Earth. And you start to take form. You begin to see planet Earth and its people being transformed unexpectedly. At an event where ships would land all over the planet. To do that, people have to be free of enough fear. So this is a place where you can establish your own co-creation dome and come back here, guided by me if you want, or on your own. Go into the hue, go into a contemplation, visualize the journey, play back this recording, and go and see what you can find out there. But remember this, there will be no negative nature you can bring with you to these co-creation domes. None whatsoever, no negative influences. So what can come out of you is pretty astounding, startling even. Always there are master teachers working with you. You're never alone. Then you find yourself hovering around Lemriel, all the way back by Earth, looking at the barren moon, polar ice caps, and then you see the world change in front of you. We're now in the 3rd higher parallel dimension. That means the molecular time rate of matter is a little higher here. And Earth becomes this world with a huge continent centered over the equator. No polar ice caps. The same moon now has oxygen and atmosphere and rivers and little oceans and domes on it. It's turning on its axis as it moves around the planet. There's the sun in the distance, the billions of stars out in space clearly visible to you. Big, hot, young, white, blue giants. Great big yellow suns, much bigger than Earth. Smaller yellow suns, little red dwarfs, great big red planets called red giants. And you know that most of the stars in our galaxy are binary or trinary. That means that planets revolve around 2 suns or 3. Scientists on Earth know this now. Our single sun is the minority in all of this. So there's Lemriel. The man and woman are still standing beside you. The ships are still there. And when you find yourself hovering near the ceiling where you live or above the car, wherever you're in, this man and woman is still hovering there, smiling kindly. These physical forms they're showing you. The energy coming down through the ceiling comes from where we just were. It passes through you effortlessly. The humming of the sound of the hue moves through you for your benefit. It goes out into Earth. It goes into 2 pyramids located on the bottom of Earth's deepest oceans. One in the Atlantic, one in the Pacific, and one inside a hollowed out interior of a mountain in the Himalayas. Meanwhile, you know that, but you're looking at this big continent on this higher Earth that has a proper moon circling it, a live moon. And you can see an upward curved, half moon base shaped, glowing emerald beach, about 1/3 of the way up from the southern pole of this continent. You can see from space there's a single snow-covered mountain range inland several miles, and a clear dome covering a small city to the west. There's a waterfall pouring out of a cavern opening 2/3 of the way towards the summit, and it's pouring out with an emerald green, blue, luminous essence because it's charged with the hue. It's pouring down behind the dome, disappearing behind a blue-green luminous forest, because the water on a normal world, in the atmosphere and the ocean in the distance you can see, is glowing. We find ourselves moving down through the atmosphere until we're hovering above and standing on that miles long, this big curved emerald glowing beach. And our feet are wiggling in the toes in the sand. We pick up this sand, you realize it's little round polished emerald crystals. And this is a gift from a race called the Xentronamus from planet Xentronomon 1 on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy, brought here, and they're master teachers, of course. It's brought here as a device. The glowing sand is charged by these beings. It glows, and when you incorporate it into yourself, it's to help you remember all the lives you've lived. Those are important ones, that is, in billions of lives in the multidimensional worlds below the void. So that is the function of wiggling your toes in this sand. Remember this, it isn't like something's going to happen where you're just walking over to a restaurant on Earth and you're going to remember billions of lives. It would kill you. Human brain can't handle that. But as an atma hovering above that body, you could review any lives you wish and bring as much back to the physical body on Earth that is beneficial to your life here. That's how this works. Inland, at the back of this curved emerald green beach, is this beautiful tropical forest. And there's a brown moss-covered path, straight as an arrow, cut through the trees. It means the trees are on each side of it. They didn't really chop anything down here. And inland several miles to the left, about 1.5 miles, is a clearing of white marble stone, about 100 feet across. And there's a statue of a woman standing there, made of quartz. Beautiful woman, longer neck, longer fingers, longer feet, about 10 feet tall. And she's got her hands up, palms out, and there's a green glow around them, and you realize this device is charging that beach. And you can see a gold band, gold, smooth, polished band around her forehead, and a downward pointing, what's called an emerald cut, teardrop-shaped, faceted green emerald crystal. And you look through this and you can see inside this statue, and there's the same woman actually standing inside a green field of energy. And we find ourselves inside the statue. And we're being introduced to or meeting with a woman, and beside her is standing a man, or male other, you might say. And he's called Xanantalus, and she is referred to as Fresu Muntis. They're from a planet called Xentronomon 1 in our physical parallel dimension. We'll go there another time. And what they're basically sharing with you is that they brought this gift to this place, and for the dome at the base of the mountain, in order to make this training facility available without negative effects in the atmosphere or in the water, because there's no pollutants here. No negative things stored in the atmosphere. No negative emotions, no negative thoughts. And it's in the physical universe. Just a little higher than Earth. And there are many such Earths being prepared for people. So back on the beach, you're going to pick up this sand. It's going to go up your smiling face, into the white core of your being, and out to the grain layer, and starts to turn on the comprehension ability, the confidence that goes with being able to remember all you were made to forget. Little here, little there, keeping your physical life on Earth in balance. And we find ourselves hovering above the dome at the western side of this single snow-capped mountain. You look up at this waterfall coming out a cavern opening 2/3 the way up towards the summit. It drops down a cliff face, sheer cliff face, like a blue polished stone. It's a glowing green emerald water that disappears in the jungle, becomes a river that winds its way back to that glowing ocean. Above it is another oval tunnel, man-made. It has little domed lights going back in the interior, and it winds down inside this mountain and comes out in a hollowed out interior inside Mount Shasta in Northern California in the United States. That is a Galactic Alliance base built in 1908. The dome has 3 pyramids in the back third of it, off to the left. They surround a long ivory-colored, smaller, what would you call that, cylindrical type of dome. And then there's a oval, blue-green, luminous lake, an artificially created circular mountain range, semicircular in the background, with waterfalls coming out of cavern openings and running down, pouring down into this lake. And in the countryside surrounding this lake are little ivory-colored dome dwellings and little white marble paths. Now, Pelham is standing on a path waving us down inside the dome. Master Pelham is Oceanic, blue skin, jet black hair to his shoulders, green eyes, emerald green. He looks to be about 40, has a Galactic Alliance uniform on. He is a very advanced master teacher. He's showing you a body form that he has brought here from Oceania. His real body looks the same as the one hovering beside the Atma he is, because it's over 500,000 years old and has not aged. Torellian is a Say race. He's standing out on this violet blue grass. And in this field around this path that leads off in the distance around the lake are these trees that look like giant weeping willow trees with broad spoon-shaped blue leaves, luminous and glowing. This is a sanctuary in the physical universe where Say rays, silent mentors come here, master teachers from all over the universe, and they work on waking out new ways of doing things to fix planet Earth and its moon from here. The prototype work for this is done in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, where we came from, where you have individual co-creation domes now. Then you find yourself in space around Torellian looking at the planet you're used to with its polar ice caps. And then you find yourself hovering above your body, wherever you are on Earth. This man and woman are still there. And the energy comes through you and flows through you out into these pyramids I mentioned earlier. And it goes from those 3 pyramids on Earth to a bigger one stationed between 2 stationary asteroids. In the asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter that was a planet once before it was blown up. And there's this big pyramid floating there stationary. It connects to the pyramid, the fountain in that, and it goes to bigger ones between stars. Then it goes back to the core, the shaft of the galactic core of the Milky Way galaxy. And it goes up that white golden shaft of light. It's not a black hole, except to human eyes on Earth. And it goes back to source. It never stops moving. It moves through us for our benefit and continues onward for the benefit of others. When you're ready, you're back on earth. Open your eyes. To many people, it seems so uncomprehendable, like they can't understand this, or it's too much for them, but it isn't. Because you all knew it once long ago anyway. The difficult part is allowing yourself to recover it. That's the important part. Your ability to visualize going to other planets and other places is still intact. It was not destroyed in any of you. It's just suppressed, kind of like an amnesia. Not destroyed. Nothing in the Atma you are was ever damaged when you were suppressed or put in bodies or forced to forget. That's still intact. So you need to walk away from this journey understanding this. Just knowing that will help you in ways you can't comprehend yet. Just knowing it. You know, that you're one of these things. If you can see it, yeah, on the book. Right there. And not one of these. Makes every difference in the world. Okay, anybody have any questions? It's a long journey.
What exactly is contemplation?
Contemplation?
Mm-hmm.
It's like meditation, but far more advanced. Okay, I'll give you an example. This will make sense to you. Let's take Buddhism, because I don't know Buddhism. Don't pretend to be an expert on it. But if you go into a meditation, whether it's Hinduism or Buddhism or yoga or Kriya yoga or fire yoga or any kinds of disciplines like that, it's designed, the purpose for it is to get you to stop your mind and emotions from running hog wild without any discipline or control. But what happens with most people is they think that the goal is samadhi, meaning stopping the mind and emotions, but that's only the beginning. So they sit there numb in this energy with no mind and emotions and nothing happens. Because at that point, which is what we're doing, you have to become very dynamically, creatively active. You have to use your ability to see into the multiverse and know things again. That becomes contemplation.
That's kind of daydreaming. The same thing
Yes,
that would.
correct. Yeah, because when you daydream, you have to daydream going to the store, you don't go there.
Mm,
You have to daydream going to work or you'll never get there. Your body will not go there. But your ability to see that is not coming from your brain. It doesn't matter what people in universities teach people, it's all theory. They can't prove any of it. They don't know where imagination comes from because they don't remember that much. I don't care how many PhDs they have on Earth, they don't know. So you do. When I say your IQ and intelligence goes up, this is why. Because it does. It can't even be measured on Earth, what changes in us. They don't have a system to measure that high. Again, it's important to remember that all of you came from much loftier digs, much loftier lives than this one. That's probably why each one of you could recognize, to some degree, what this is or why it is attractive to you. Somehow it inspires you. Because you need to have a guide, at least for a while. You got to have a lot of them to be able to remember what you were made to forget, because the atmosphere of Earth is completely set against you doing that. And your neighbors, workers, planet Earth, they're grounded into the Earth consciousness, just like you were. They have no idea what they're capable of. None. Many people live many lifetimes, die, and get born again out of fear that they need the security, a false security, of being unconscious in a body. This is not normal, and it's not natural. This goes back in galactic history. It goes back into the history of the lower dimensions of time and space, how all this happened this way. But the truth is, we're all still responsible. as members of the source to help change it. Otherwise, it won't change. We're like little gods clothed in rags. The potential is the same as the source itself, but we have to start co-creating with it. This is the purpose for existence. Any questions? Any more questions? You can turn your microphones on just by clicking on that little diagonal red line on your microphone symbol. And you don't have to say anything if you don't want to. That's okay too. Some of you dozed off. There's nothing wrong with that. You didn't do anything wrong. You still is an atma. You went on the journey. Go ahead, Pari.
The more you go on the journeys, the more you can imagine clearer and clearer. You just keep doing it, and then at one point, you will get the experience that you expected to have.
But don't just sit on your butt waiting for it to hit you in the head. That won't work. You're supposed to be like a god taking the rags off and creating where you want to go and what you want to do. I know that's hard because people aren't trained to do this on Earth at all. No, they're not. I don't know of any guru on Earth that's a quote, a guru known to public that does this, that teaches anybody anything about this. There are gurus on Earth that teach people there are 3 sounds you can make with the human lips without moving the tongue. Ah, oo, and or om. That vibration only reaches the mental plane, by the way, which is a much higher heaven than Earth, but it's still a trap for the Atma. There is a 4th sound they don't know about that can be made, that connects above the void. They just don't know it. So they don't use it. And it only does one thing. It's designed to connect you back home sooner or later. It's to help you remember all your friends and relatives out among the stars, sure. But it's designed to get you going back home to be a co-creator. After billions of years, it's got to culminate in something constructive than just endless lifetimes. Kind of pointless in a way. Any other questions or any comments? Well, then I want to wish, if you have any, you can say it now. Don't be shy. I'll answer them. You'll probably benefit you.
Guys, we see you again next time.
Okay. I will close down this recording.